Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasul al-Kareem. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Fiqh al-Muamalat online course. And today is a continuation of the prohibitions of Sharia, and we are still with the Gharar. And today we'll be talking about the scope of Gharar. If you look at the scope of Gharar, we can see that Gharar may exist either in the offer and acceptance, which is the Sigha, and the Gharar number two could exist in the subject matter. We are talking about price and goods, and could be also in existence in the terms and conditions. So that's basically, if you look at the scope of the Gharar, that's where the Gharar may emerge, may exist in the business transaction. Number one, expression of the contract, a sigha, the offer and acceptance. Number two, the subject matter, price and goods. Number three, determine the conditions that govern the transactions or the contract. So let's start maybe talking about the first one. The gharar that exists in the sigha or in the offer and acceptance is that the gharar is related to the way that the offer and acceptance have been expressed. So it has nothing to do with the price, has nothing to do with the goods, has nothing to do with the terms and conditions. It has to do with the offer and acceptance. It has to do with the sigha, with the expression of the contract, the way that offer and acceptance have been expressed by the contracting party in order to conclude the deal. And if you remember, early on we have talked about the pillars of the contract and the types of terms and the conditions that should be present in the offer and acceptance in order to have a valid contract. And the examples given here that reflect the existence of gharar in the offer and acceptance is basically the example of al-bay'ataini fi bay'a, combining two sales in one. Example, if you want to buy a car or if you want to buy a mobile or a computer, for example, you will tell him, I hereby sold you this computer with 1,000 USD, for example, cash, or 2,000 deferred payment. So basically, a buyer will be confused, and offer and acceptance cannot be materialized, or the confusions and the debates and the conflict could take place, and the arrangements could lead in a dispute because you don't know whether you are buying with 1,000 cash or you are buying with 2,000 what's so-called deferred payment. Of course, this combination of the two contracting, the two contract in one, or bay'ataini fi bay'a or safqataini fi safqa, is not allowed in Sharia. But if, let's say, the seller puts these two prices in the stage of quotations or in the stage of offer, for example, you will tell him, well, this is the commodity, or this is the asset. This is, let's say, the asset. Now, if you want to buy it cash, it's 100. That's the first offer. Now, the second offer, this is 100 cash base, meaning you have to pay cash now, and you take the assets. Or you purchase it with the 150 deferred payment. Now, which one you like? Contract has not been concluded yet. It is a stage of offer. But contract is not concluded. It is like a quotation. It's an offer to sell, or a stage of quotations. Then what you will do, you will choose one of the two. Then you conclude the contract accordingly. That one is permissible. You will tell me, well, I will opt for option one, and I would like to buy this with 100 on cash. Then we conclude the contract accordingly. Or you tell me, I want to purchase this, I want to go for option B, whereby I will go for deferred payment. And as a result of that, you will pay 150. That one also is allowed. But concluding the contract and the offer and acceptance in a business transactions would confirm transactions, would confirm offer and acceptance with a statement that combine the two صفقتين or the two sales in one. That one is not allowed. That's one of the gharar that may exist in the offer and acceptance. The other one that normally scholars give an example of it is basically a contract that has been concluded but without issuing an offer that identify exactly the asset or the goods. And here we have two traditional contracts that normally the scholars give example on it. And the first one is بيع المنابذة, just to reconfirm the term, sorry, بيع الحصاد. بيع الحصاد is a truing stone, sales through truing the stones, whereby the sellers, and this kind of business transaction and sales transaction used to be practiced a long time in the Jahiliyyah, in the early stage of Islam. When Islam came, basically he abolished, Islam abolished this kind of transactions and forbidden this kind of sales transaction because of the degree of gharar, whereby the person will just throw a stone on the commodity, and when the commodity or the stone touch the goods or the asset or the object, that object considered sold without a need for the purchaser to express his consent or his acceptance. So this one we call it بيع الحصاد. It's a sales through throwing a stone. And another contract called بيع المنابذة. المنابذة is also throwing, not the stone, throwing the commodity, throwing the object. So when the sellers throw the object and it is received by the buyer, that commodity considered sold without looking at the consent, without looking at the acceptance. So this kind of transactions basically used to be present in the past, but Islam basically removed that kind of transactions from being permissible transactions because of the degree of the gharar and because it's compromise on the offer and acceptance, and also the two contracting party did not really express their willingness to buy that specific items, and there is no kind of offer and acceptance pertaining to the object, but it is a true chance, a true accidents, and true gaming. That's why some of the games, basically, of some of the programs in sales transactions online are close to this, whereby you would purchase through program. Like, for example, you pay money, then you just run the program. So whatever, the program land to on specific object, that object consider sold. So it is very close to what's so-called gambling, and also often acceptance have not been expressed clearly, and there is no consent, and there is no what's so-called connections between the buyer and the sellers to agree on that specific item, but it has been basically agreed upon through chance, like for example, as we mentioned, throwing a stone or throwing an object. That kind of transactions contain a gharar. So this is the first one, which is in the scope of the gharar, whereby, as we mentioned, gharar could be in the offer and acceptance, and could be in the subject matter, and could be in the term and the conditions. So we have covered briefly the first aspect of the scope of the gharar, which is related to the offer and acceptance. And the coming session, inshallah, we carry on the other aspect of the gharar. With that, thank you very much. And assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.